And we're back. Um, Changed again. I think this bling bling heart cutie compliments it better. But anyway, I still like my other one, my other piece. Anyway, yes, so Uncle Clifford gets a call from the hospital. But then we quickly cut back to Andre and Haley. And although she's under the impression that she is pregnant, based on what Whisper has said, she's not drinking. And Andre noticed that, like, what's going on? And she's like, oh no, I want to keep sober, to keep the excitement and remember the night that Andre Watkins won as mayor. But they get turned on and they go back to his place where they're ferociously kissing each other and they're gonna, have sex. But they're interrupted by his wife. And she's just like catches them in the middle of. Thankfully, they were both fully clothed. It wasn't like when he found his wife performing oral sex on her lover, but nonetheless. And so that cuts there. And then we go back to Keyshawn, who, let it be known to Diamond that, yes, she was thankful and she has been thinking about him, but he's kind of like left in limbo because he doesn't know how he feels about this. He's been wanting for the longest for her to feel the same way as him. And even the moments where he's been intimate with Big Bone, he's thought about Keyshawn. But yeah, she's ready to kind of wrap it up. She made her money like Haley had promised her, and she's leaving a note very reminiscent of Drag Queen. RuPaul's Drag Race, when they leave a little note in lipstick on the mirror and is letting Mercedes know that she will always be her sister for life. And we see big Uncle Clifford exit the office, and that leads into the dressing room, and is like, "That's what you're gonna do? That's how you're gonna say goodbye?" Note on the mirror. You better say goodbye to me. And they have a warm heart to heart where they realize that despite what's happened, they do care for each other, and they bury the hatchet. And he wishes her well. As she leaves, he sits down and we don't know what's happened, and it just says to be continued. And it's like, but thankfully that wasn't the season finale. Now we move into the season finale. Episode 10, Mississippi Rule. And we see that we pick up where we semi left off with Andre and Haley, and now his wife. And Haley's just kind of standing there. And she's always, people have said this online too, like, why is it that she's always staring off into space or looking into, breaking the fourth wall and looking straight into the camera and kind of smirking? Because we never just know what is going on. But aside from the fact that Andre and his wife are going at it hard. And then all of a sudden, all she heard was this yellow bitch or something like that, and she's like, what? And that's when she wants to step in, but Andre kind of wants to tame down whatever's happening and just keep the peace in his home. And Haley notices outside the window that press is there, people are standing there, so she's like, it must be, it must be positive, it must be like you actually won. So he tells her, like, oh, wait for me outside, because he was going to handle business and talk to his wife. And she really, knowing how she was caught, now maybe she feels some form of entitlement. And now we bookend here. I do want to make that a point. We bookend from when we started in the first episode of this season, and she had seen Haley's name on the cell, but she was wondering about her. Now we have confirmation. She has confirmation that Haley was this person that he may have been interested. Now, people have said also online that although she cheated physically, he cheated emotionally. He never got to seal the deal until she basically gave him the green light because she had already been with her lover. But in the same sense, she had already history with that lover. It wasn't just a random hookup. It was somebody that she had been dating prior to dating Andre and prior to them marrying. So it was some unrequited love or something to that degree that they acted upon during this tough time of COVID. And he just lets it be known, like, she's like, oh, so this is what I get? He's like, like, I don't, but how dare I? He was like, yeah, yeah, you deserve this, especially how I found you. But let's not be self-righteous here on either aspect of the relationship. Go be happy. You want this guy, I think his name is Dante, the character's name is Dante. He's like, marry Dante, be happy with him. But I'm invested and perhaps in love with Haley. So she almost has to kind of like bite the bullet, but not for nothing. And I appreciate this aspect of the political game, because I can't tell you how many relationships just put on the facade to just get the votes and to seem like everything's honky-dory, when in reality their relationship behind closed doors isn't squeaky clean. It's just to convey family values, but in reality their relationship could be in shambles. So very smart of them to include that as part of this episode. Oh, she didn't call her yellow bitch like Clifford. She had called her, Andre's wife had called Haley light bright, and that set her off. But anyway, and also, not for nothing, here's something that can be put into question in their relationship. But again, we can make those opinions because we're objectively outside of that relationship. Was there really an opportunity for them to actually know each other? Because Andre had lied about his past, and he says, had I admitted everything about my past and my father's checkered past, would you have still married me? And I feel to some extent she also presented some form of falsehood into the relationship, because she still harbored emotions and love for her former flame. So they both fell for each other's representatives, like Chris Rock has said. It's like, you don't get somebody being you fall for their representatives, which is very factual in certain cases. It's like, wow, did we really even know each other? And I think this is where they're standing as a couple right now. Haley was the catalyst, and maybe Dante was too, but they're now facing each other for who they both really are. Now, speaking of keeping facades and masks, very much like COVID, Little Murder is tired, admits to, I think, Clifford, being tired of not being the person that he truly is, who he naturally is, and isn't given the opportunity to choose the love that he so desires and be public with that person. Remember, he's coming from this very tough lifestyle of gangsta, and then now add on gangsta rap, which just doesn't have a connection, or a lot of people who are homophobic can see the connection between art and then that person's personal life. So and I forgot to mention also in the last episode, before Clifford had that touching moment with Keyshawn, there was a split moment where Mercedes talks about Keyshawn's triumphant last dance and says, like, that's something that should have happened with me. And she's talking to Little Murder in that private room, which happened to be the same room where the room where it happened, in the season finale of the first episode. They have a heart-to-heart, and he was kind of nervous because he had just recorded a new track, a demo that he was about to premiere, and he wanted her to listen to it. And he was like, well, you don't want your key star Keyshawn, she's been your lady counterpart during the tours and everything, promotion of your work. And he's like, no, she's great and I love her, but you'll always be the legend here. And she listens to it, and so now moving forward, we find out that the track is called 7 Pounds of Pressure. And if we remember the episode where Mercedes had that bad fall, and she was with Diamond, who did that exorcism and root work, he removed 7 pounds of pressure. And he made it clear in that episode it takes 7 pounds of pressure to pull the trigger. And that's how we knew Mercedes had pulled the trigger to save Haley. So in the track, It's aggressive. It's an aggressive, uh, you know, song, but then again, that's part of kind of what's holding him back because he has to now uphold this image that he's been pushing to be known. But there's also that softer side that and vulnerable side that he reveals to Uncle Clifford. So, as we go back to Haley and Andre, Haley's waiting for him outside and anticipating for him to come out. And, you know, you were all under the impression that he had won, and so he would do his speech as you do. But he gets a call, and it's not who he thought it was. We assume that it's Kyle, who was their temporary mayor, calling him, but in reality it was Haley letting him know that she will always see him as her king, because they're actually calling each other king and queen to each other, but no, he hadn't won. So the press was there to get the him conceding to the person who wins, and of all people is Pastor Bishop. Woodbine. Patrice is she won? She won. I'm telling you. There's a saying in Spanish that's like, you know, create fame and then go to bed. Cría fama y cuéntate dormir. And that it really coincides with politics, because if you are charming and able to woo a public, there's nothing you can't do. The last administration was proof of that. When you use it for evil purposes, I'm just saying. But that's what happened here. She was good at the talk and the walk that they preferred her. So Kyle was really calling Woodbine and letting her know that they'll still be in each other's faces, just because that promised land is still looming. It didn't go through. It wasn't accepted with the community. But water has its way of finding, right? Of still spreading. So we'll get to that a little later. And again, we might see Kyle for season 3. Well, I get a feeling he's definitely in for season 3. Mercedes also. So this night in particular is when Little Murder decides to debut the 7 pounds. It's not a track that he shares with Tina, it's just him. And has finally his leading lady, because that's what he wanted in the first season. And here we have also a difference in seasons, because he really was just an aspiring rapper who had a very checkered past but had a good heart, and just still barely scratching the surface, to now where, you know, he's known and he's more settled into his career. So of course he's going to have the most captivating of dancers, Mercedes, do her thing, and she gets the confidence, finally breaks free from whatever was keeping her you know, not doing her usual Mercedes experience self, that she's able to do all the tricks, and like she says, I think, what is it, gangster walk on the ceiling, she's able to do that. Now her neighbor, who she had a crush on, which they came close to actually hooking up, but I think when she reevaluates what she's been through in the last couple of months, that she's looking for